every day sunshine.
First, Lev, I would like to ask for you to share with us kind of the story behind this documentary, how it began, and the whole beginning process to actually starting the filming. What happened?
I was a fan of the band as a kid. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. My father used to bring home all kinds of records. He brought home the first Beastie Boy records, Run DMC, the first rap records. He brought home the first Fishbone album and took my sister and I to go see them when I was 10 years old. So I was, which was perfect as a 10-year-old because you just go to the show and you just jump around. So I grew up in kind of a musical family, but I recognized with Fishbone early on that they were different. And I could appreciate that because I went and saw lots of concerts as a kid. I listened to lots of kinds of music, but I thought Fishbone was unique. And then when I found out that they basically formed as a band as a product of social engineering, this desegregation policy with the LA Unified School District, that kind of added this other element. And then as a documentary filmmaker, it widens the story up. I love to tell a story about artists, kind of what the artistic endurance and artistic integrity, what it takes to kind of put yourself out there in the world and do what you want to do as kind of this mode of self-expression. So I thought that was kind of an interesting story, but then also I knew that these guys were all characters. You could follow these guys around and be entertained because they're good storytellers, they're eccentric individuals, and they were all real nice guys. And so we just thought, we knew that there was going to be a story there that we could tell that would go beyond the normal confines of a rockumentary.
When you started the filming, did you already have an outline or a story in mind, or did things transition, and as Angela was getting crazier and crazier, did the story take a totally different path, or how did that process go?
We went in with kind of a rough idea. Basically, we had the beginning and the middle, kind of the rise and fall, and then the rest of the question was resurrection. Because you try to follow these traditional storytelling, methods, kind of rise, fall, resurrection, and we didn't really know how it was going to end, and that was the most difficult thing, because then we were like, well, when do we stop filming? Because the thing is, Fishbone keeps going, and that's the one thing. I don't know if you get in the film, but I don't know that they've gone 3 months in the last 30 years where they're not touring.
Can you go about explaining how you were able to contact or reach out to Gwen Stefani and Flea and Ice-T and a lot of these celebrities?
Everybody that we included in the film has a relationship to the guys in Fishbone, whether they're still in touch on a, Norwood gave us Flea's email address. And then somebody like Ice-T, I just sent him a message on his MySpace page, and he called me up on my cell phone. And I was like, cool, this sounds cool, I'll do the interview. I live in Phoenix. So even though that interview looks like it's in LA, it's actually in Phoenix.
How long did it take you to do the documentary from beginning and to end? And were there downtimes where you just were not filming at all?
Yeah, it took us about 4 years from when we initially approached the band to when we premiered at the LA Film Festival. And I mean, part of that was my co-director and I lived in San Francisco at the time. I mean, he's still up there. I live down here now, but so it was once or twice a month we would drive down to LA for a few days, shoot some interviews, and drive back. Or we would try to meet up with them on tour somewhere, or if we had to do something in New York, and if they were going to be playing in New York, we would go out there and then try to interview the few people in New York that we wanted to interview. So it was kind of hit and miss, but during that whole time, when you're an independent documentary filmmaker, a lot of it is about fundraising. A lot of it is about just reaching out to, we did everything on this project. My co-director and I probably, besides the actual editing and the graphics, everything else, scheduling interviews, raising money, keeping contacts with the band, drawing up contracts with people, everything is kind of what, we had to do, which was great for me because being my first film, this was my film school.
Okay.
Thank you again, Lev, for showing your film, sharing that.